Welcome to The Power of Culture. I'm Mayassa bint Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. My nation, Qatar, is on a creative journey supporting the talents of a rising generation, reaching out to other countries through the arts and building an entire cultural infrastructure. In each episode of The Power of Culture, I'm joined by a leading artist or architect, philanthropist or museum professional who's part of Qatar's journey. Listen in as we discuss what the power of culture can do. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the multidisciplinary designer based in Qatar, Aisha Al Sowaidi. Back in 2013, you studied at VCUQ Arts and you wrote a thesis titled Finding History in the Future. What did you mean by that?
I joined VCUQ again in 2013 to continue my master's in design studies. I wanted to explore the meaning of memories and how it attaches a person to a certain time, moment, and how perhaps that memory alter through time but still stay real, creating even a stronger attachment to the past. The timing of the research was very critical as well. I started the research, as I mentioned, in 2013, a time where Doha was, I would say, replanned. There was a lot of construction going around, and my familiar places, whether it's houses, streets, or whole areas, were shifting, creating even a larger gap between myself and the new developing city. Finding history in the future was a research about rebuilding those connections. The past is a source of inspiration for me as a designer, and I wanted to find those moments and feelings through designed objects. I explored many themes within this concept. Some are meant to connect a person to the past, to a certain moment, and some are meant to collect future memories. My work mostly focuses on materials that ages through time, and or materials used heavily during that time, like concrete, to remind us of the time, that time in particular in the future, the time of developing Doha, construction, and rebuilding the city.
You mentioned that you went back to VCUQ to do your master's. You went to VCUQ to do your undergraduate studies too, correct?
Yeah, I did. I studied graphic design.
And I noticed also, actually, that much of your work, when I first encountered your work at the Artist in Residency program, I think you were the first or the second batch of Artists in Residencies. I felt that your work as a designer relates very much to memory, nostalgia, and traces of time. Do you feel that Qatar is in danger of losing its sense of identity, or do you think there are benefits to the development and investment in, replanning the whole, not just the whole city, actually the whole country?
Well, I'm I would say sometimes I tend to be very quiet and observing towards like my surroundings and how things are moving around me. And as much as I'm very attached to the past and my childhood memories, I very much look forward to the future, the development and the new things. I love new things. It's like a conflicting feeling, wanting to stay in a moment, in a time, but yet feeling excited about how the city is developing. The question about identity, I think identity is reinvented always. What is identity? It's also something that I have been exploring through my work and research. When I say planning future memories, it's like placing anchors of observed change for it to stay and grow. That in itself forms identity. I think the impact of change hit me so hard because it happened in a fast pace. That for me raised a lot of questions that made me think, how would our culture, traditions, and aesthetics in general developed if it have been given a fair amount of time to change? So I act on those observations of mine and imagine how things could have been developed if it had the chance to develop throughout a longer, like a more extended pace of time.
I really actually like how you merge the past with the future, the present consideration of design. Like, for example, your Midkhan, you addressed the use of material in different ways, making it very contemporary, but also you think about scale and place with the one you installed at the National Museum first and another one you stored at the shared townhouses. Tell us more about the idea of the midkhan. And I feel like smell is always related to the past, to nostalgia. And also the other work that I remember when you expressed the idea of the teddy bear that you showed at the Artists in Residence exhibition made from cement inside interiors, and then you wet it with water and then gets really hard. It's always this playfulness between the past, the present, the future, which I really love about your work. Tell our listeners more about those pieces.
Well, about the midkhan, I created the midkhan using copper, a material that ages gracefully through time, but you can visibly see how it changes through touch, through environment where it is installed. I enjoy design concepts, and I like to work around concepts around home and houses. And so with this project, I thought about home systems, how things are developing and becoming more of technologies is embedded in everything, and home systems is growing greatly. And it just made me imagine, what if the midkhan was embedded within sort of a home system? And I thought of centralizing the midkhan, just like the ACs and other systems. What if the midkhan would have a hub in the house, and then those pipes would go around the house, creating a system where the scent is distributed throughout the house just from one hub. I looked into industrial design, which I enjoy looking at. I enjoy looking at abandoned. It fascinates me to find those abandoned industrial objects that no longer is in use, but it's there. It feels it had a function, it had a life. It doesn't function anymore, or doesn't have a function anymore, but you can sense the importance of it in the past. I just wanted to reflect those concepts with something that I work around, which is scent and traditions, and how culture is developing around me. As you mentioned, I create this installation in the National Museum and in the townhouse as well, where I projected those ideas, brought them into life.
I know, I love them so much. I commissioned you to do one in the living room, and I think every household should have it, because scent is so important to our tradition and culture. So
I hope you enjoy using it.
Very much so, and so do the guests who come through. They find it unusual to begin with, but then if you think about change and time, the size of our houses, or where we used to live in tents, small scale spaces, as opposed to high ceilings, we need to think about how smell moves in order to not lose that heritage and tradition. But tell me a bit more about yourself, Aisha. What made you decide to become a designer?
It wasn't a decision, really. I feel like design chose me. But since a young age, I like to create. I enjoyed exploring concepts and ideas and bring them to life. I dismantled toys, rebuilt them. I played with different materials, construction materials like gypsum and concrete. I was a bit rough. I joined VCU back then, and I think it nurtured those interests. I've always been artistic and good in art, but I learned about design, and that gave me a deeper perspective on my interest. I guess the story started from there.
I like that. Design chose me. That's very powerful. And did you find that growing up in Qatar, you were supported in your ambitions to follow a career in design?
Of course. Living in Qatar gave me a tremendous amount of inspiration to work with. Living in both the past and the future, it's basically all what my work is about. This is my interest, and this is what I'm living here. So everything that surrounds me supports and nurture my thinking and vision in work. And I've always said that working at Qatar museums have opened my eyes on many things. I expanded my perspective and ambition. I do reflect a lot, and I like to reset my ambitions from time to time. I also act on opportunities to grow and achieve my visions. But I think the understanding of the importance of design in every sector is growing. And I think this is the time to act on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for me, there's so many amazing design destinations in Qatar that relate to architecture, urban planning, public parks. So it's really it's a great moment for designers to find inspiration, I think, whether you're from Qatar, the region, or internationally. Exactly. Let's go back to one of the opportunities that you accepted in terms of design development and expanding your practice, which is designing one of the townhouses at the Msheira properties, which in my opinion is one of the greatest design destinations, not just in Qatar, but worldwide. You designed it for the Qatar Museum's Culture Pass Club townhouses. Just before the World Cup, we wanted to really celebrate our talent. How do you think this kind of experience changed the way you think or thought of design and space?
Well, the townhouse project was one of my biggest. It is the biggest project I believe I worked on in terms of scale and timeline and like delivering the full townhouse. And for the event, for just before, as you mentioned, the World Cup, it really expanded my perspective and my understanding on production and the practical part of design. So I was commissioned to design this full townhouse that has bedrooms, living room, dining room, balconies, and a kitchen, and so on, a hallway, and an entrance like the lobby towards going towards the townhouse. I had to think about everything. I wanted to relate it so much to my style of thinking and my research. I always like to think of tangible and intangible parts of how we look at life and how we see things around us. So I'm very much interested in, as I mentioned, culture and traditions. So I started from there. I looked into how do we welcome the guests into our homes through coffee, serving them coffee. The mithan, the incense burner, is something very important, but hospitality itself is very important. And I wanted to reflect that through my design. And from there, I redesigned the central mithan that went throughout the living room in the townhouse, and some other objects like the coffee machine that has that shoots bubbles that are edible bubbles that taste like coffee, and the dining table that looks like a carpet.
Yeah, can you say more about the bubbles? Because I love that idea. I thought it was so innovative, but so traditional at the same time, as well as the vending machine with the teddy bears, as you know, candles. I believe it was beeswax, if I remember correctly. And then that central table that you used as a dining table, using traditional pattern in the table. Tell us more about that.
Well, to start with, I thought about the flow of the guests entering the townhouse. And I thought I should have some type of catering, maybe not a person, maybe something that is functional, like a machine or something that would serve them coffee. And I tried to push this idea a little bit further and thought of something that would automatically start when people enter the entrance of the townhouse. So I designed this object that was inspired from the dalla, where you pour the coffee, and the Arabian coffee cup with its pattern. It has like some palm trees. And I created this sort of object from brass and marble, reflecting those two objects. In the middle of this, what looks like a table, there's an opening that shoots bubbles, edible bubbles that I would cook. I would make. They're mixed with cardamom, saffron, and a bit of coffee that would shoot it to the whole area, and it will float in the room. And people can just taste them, and they would taste the coffee, they would taste those ingredients of what we consider hospitality. It's a playful way. I like to think a lot about like childhood memories and how life is enjoyable as a child. And I like to bring those playful moments into adult life.
We need to get that bubble machine at the airport, the coffee bubble machine. It's really, really creative.
Thank you. We should. And the dining table that looks like a carpet, it's something that I researched. I created a smaller piece during my study at VCU, working on my thesis. I looked into how time changed, how our lifestyle changed, how families also changed and reacted to everything that is happening. I mean, schools, working hours, everything has extended. So we don't perhaps gather like we used to do during lunchtime. And even eating on the floor is considered maybe is vanishing or maybe happens very occasionally. So I wanted to bring this notion of the past and tradition, eating on the floor, gathering around a meal. So I created this low table with benches that looks like traditional cushions. And the table has a pattern of a carpet. So it looks like an elevated carpet, but it's a low table. Just to relive those moments, but yet serving like a better function, more comfortable, functional table.
And as a designer, with all these productions that you're making for the townhouse, but other projects, how hard is it to produce things locally? And what are your main challenges? And what do you think needs to be done to improve those kind of things for designers like yourselves to really thrive in the industry?
Well, to start with, I heard it's a black box. You don't know how to reach it, how to find it, how to enter it. But I think the idea of those obstacles is the obstacle. I like to schedule my travels, for instance, during design weeks around the world, or exhibitions, production exhibitions, just to have a look on what's happening out there and how I can bring my designs to life. And I really found out if you focus on what you want to create, exactly what do you want to make, you'll always find a way to make it. Most of my objects, I would prototype them myself. For instance, you mentioned the vending machine. The vending machine, I created those candles of teddy bears. Those teddy bears candles have a story. It says on them, bear with me, meaning bear with me, the city is developing. You'll rebuild those connections, those memories to the new city. So it's a very conceptual piece in a candle that looks like a bear, a teddy bear that represent childhood memories. But I had this idea of creating this candle, and I created the mold myself. I 3D printed the shape of the bear here in Doha. I casted the mold, and I created the mold, and I casted the wax with the scent, and I created my first candle. And from there, I started the production for the townhouse. Then I had some limitation of time and effort. So I did look into places, for instance, I'm just giving an example of one project. Found many places to create cast those candles. So I sent them my 3D printed bear, and they created multiple molds and casted hundreds of bears. So I think you start somewhere, and that somewhere is within you, and then you continue and you find places to produce. I think it's just an idea or a lack of understanding that everything exists out there. You can produce whatever you want. It's just a matter of researching and finding the best place to do so.
That's really inspiring because, you have had the opportunity to act as a sort of design ambassador for Qatar, participating in events locally, regionally, but more recently at the London Design Biennale. With the upcoming Doha Design Biennale, what can you tell other Qataris, locals and regional residents about the Arab design scene? What advice can you give them? And what encouragement could you give them?
Well, the design scene is booming, not only in Qatar, but It has been for a while in the region. But this is the time right here and right now to give their voices to it, to put their print on it. With all the artists, residencies happened in the past few years, for instance, in the fire station, the prizes, the incubation programs, and the international massive exhibitions that have been hosted here through Qatar museums, which for sure expanded the mind on the limitation of art and design and thinking. This is the time for artists and designers to shine, to take the stage and participate in creating and pushing this growing scene higher. Well, it's quite tricky for me to give advice, but I would say the most important thing is to actively act now and be part of it. And in terms of work, I would say find the most authentic message in oneself and project it. Art could be a very personal journey, and I believe the more authentic it is, the deeper it connects to the audience and the more sustainable it can grow.
And as a director of the Liwan Design Studios and Labs, can you tell listeners more about the programs you're running and what opportunities they have to grow as designers? But for me, more importantly, I think Liwan as a space is really also an inspirational story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Amna Al Jeda and the school and the history of the school and the transformation of it, the preservation of an old girls' school, the first girls' school in Qatar, to what is now Liwan Design Studios and Labs?
So Liwan opened back in 2022. It has been active for a year and a half. Before that, there was a lot of work on what this project is to be. It's not just about the programming, as you mentioned, it's the building itself. I was so lucky to work in something that connects so much to my work, my personal work. It's the oldest girls' school in Qatar, and it's the first girls' school in Qatar. So I looked a lot into what it used to be and the history of Amna Mahmoud Al Jeda, Allah yarhamha, who used to teach those girls at her home, and then was given this location by the government to expand that and to create an official school for girls. I went to the school for 1 year when I was in grade 1. It was known to be very strong in Arabic, and I guess I needed that. So I went to it for 1 year, and I remember that vividly, but I have a sense of connection to the space. And I wanted to keep that feeling, to reflect it in the restoration of the place. It's not the only project, of course, that Qatar Museum has been working on in terms of restoration and reactivation. So we looked into the programming of this space and what it is, whether it's incubation, residencies, a place for creatives. We've been looking a lot into growing the creative scene. And I wanted this place to reflect my personal perspective on perhaps what designers need. So Liwan basically is a co-working space for designers. It's an annual membership for creatives to apply. And once accepted, they have multiple studios, meeting rooms, labs, spaces, indoors and outdoors, and the support of the team who works at Liwan as well, to cater for their needs. They can work there, they can book the meeting rooms, use our fabrication labs and other labs such as the leather lab, and we have a clay lab, all run by local talent. To grow their practice, we wanted to create a place where they would expand their art direction. And I personally believe art and design grow through conversation, through dialogue. And I wanted a space that would cater for that. We tried to build Liwan with a sort of a boundary, but a loose boundary for designers and artists who are members of the space could push or alter, and we could cater for them and they could be part of it. What we are really looking into is creating a strong community of creatives and entrepreneurs within those walls, and project outside. And we think it's a continuation of what used to be. So the school has been running for past 30, 40 years, perhaps, since the 1950s. And it has a great community. It has a big community of former students, teachers, and people who worked there. We still see them coming. So the community still exists, even though the space has changed to be more of a place hosting designers and creatives. But we continue this heritage, I would say, of rebuilding another community, but for creatives. And I hope this community would even be stronger than the community of the alumni, the students, or as strong as that community is connected to the space.
No, I really love the space, the energy, the color, the courtyards, the human scale of the building, and the way the preservation. And we have to thank our partners, Ashghal, for that. It's been really a great journey. But talk to us a bit more about the activations in Liwan. I know you have clay encounters and you have Jild. I'm not sure if more activations have happened since then. But also, what are the programs that you're planning in the near future and the opportunities that exist for young designers, children, amateur adults who may want to experience with the design? Talk to us a bit more about your program.
For sure. We have 2 labs that we can recreate and redirect in the future to be other labs. But we selected Noor Al-Mulham to run the clay lab. She's an MFA graduate from VCU. She studied design and she worked with different mediums in clay. She works with clay and glass and mix it with other mediums. And she collaborates with other artists as well to work with her in the clay lab. We did not want to dictate the running of those labs, so we wanted to find local creatives who would run those labs. And Noura works from the lab. She works as a consultant for artists if they wanted to, or members of Liwan. If they wanted to execute a project, she's there to help them in that aspect. We do have a clay 3D printer that I always mention because I'm always excited when I see it work. We have the leather lab, which is run by Aisha Al Sowaidi. He's a local as well, who is a self-taught artist on leather making. He creates notebooks, bags, and he expanded his business throughout Liwan. He's also there to help bring to life projects related on leather for the members, or we collaborate with them to create workshops for the community, for the general community. We offer workshops. We are very selective and we're very careful when we bring workshops. We want the outcome to live, and we don't want it to stop where it's just a workshop that you spend your time in and enjoy and then leave. So we try to create those workshops within a theme. So every 6 months, Liwan announced a theme. We started with COVID and design before Liwan has even opened. When everything was remotely, we launched this concept, and it ran for 6 months. During those 6 months, we host talks, workshops. We invite creatives and artists to participate in interviews or articles around the theme. So Liwan is not just a space to physically create things, but it's also a content creator relating global issues with the local design scene and art scene. The second one was sport and design during the World Cup. And then we moved into, we're at the theme of archiving right now. And we think it's something very important, how we archive not just things, but how do we archive communities as well in Qatar. So we work around those themes, and the workshops are catered to serve those themes. And any outcome of those workshops would be saved for an open day where we showcase everything that has been created during those workshops. So we try to think of the afterlife of the workshop, and of course talks and gathering sessions are always scheduled around those themes as well. We are very open to engage the creative community in our programs. We always listen to whoever has any idea, and we act on it. We try to execute it. We bring it to life, because I think me and the team, we really believe that everything successful is born out of passion. And whatever passion we have or we receive, we try to really look into that and cater for that.
I can't agree more with the importance of passion and how that can overcome any obstacle we face. You know, this is a new sector that was being developed, and I think new in a sense that it's, creating spaces and more systematic structures to maximize the opportunities that are available to our community. For people who want to participate or know about how to engage in the projects that are incubated at Liwan, as well as the programs that you're mentioning, how do they do that? How do they know about your program? Or, I mean, what are the opportunities to share the information to a larger audience that may have never encountered design?
Well, our main platform of announcement is our Instagram. So I would say just follow us on Instagram at liwan.qa. We also have a newsletter where we keep everyone updated on what we offer. And for anyone who's interested in our membership, we are open. We try to cater for creatives and designers, but we're open to receive any portfolio and look into that and try to grow this community, hopefully in a very strong way.
And if we were to look ahead, let's say 2030, as it falls into, the completion of the Qatar National Vision 2030, how do you see Liwan supporting creatives, and how open are you or are we in inviting people with projects that can really incubate with design ideas and creativity and innovation in terms of discussions, ideas, and brainstorming solutions to problems like sustainability, the use of material. Qatar has a very different climate to different countries, and working with architects from all around the world. How does Liwan support those initiatives?
Well, I would encourage any creative or artist to speak up and just come visit us at Liwan. I think what we really want to create is a strong bond, is a strong community within Liwan. We want this community to guide the years ahead on what Liwan can be. We can only set a vision and plan for it, but without the people, without the creatives who would actually make this vision a reality, it would be quite hard to achieve. I think attracting those passionate, enthusiastic creatives within Liwan in our to create this community would really set our vision into life. We cater for everything. We have a lot of within Qatar museums. We connect to a lot of projects within, whether it's with the National Museum, Mathaf, or the Islamic Museum. We find our way in embedding those projects and creatives and their personal projects within those museums and create a stronger link. For instance, we had a workshop in Al Jassasiyah, which is an archaeological site, and designers took inspiration from the patterns found on the rocks. So we do find ways to reinvent the creativity and connect it to the history, to museums, and find ways to exhibit that. So I see ourselves building a strong community with a very meaningful foundation for it to stay, and creating a strong content to add to our culture, something to stay and add and enrich our identity, our future identity in Qatar.
Are you participating in Design Doha, the Biennale?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit of what you're doing or how you're participating? Is it a new work? Is it a revisit of an old work, or what are you doing?
It's a revisit of an old work. It's the Bear With Me mirror, which reflects quite a diluted teddy bear. as a mirror. This teddy bear is the childhood memories, but it's not in a perfect shape. It's like it's floating in space. And this is around the concept of altered memories. You remember something, sometimes you're not sure if it's exactly how it happened or if just time deformed this memory. But it's also a reflection of the self. So whatever it is, it's true and it's real. So this is the piece that I'm participating with in the Design Doha exhibition.
You have one in the townhouses, right? At the Musharraf townhouses?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Aisha. It's been a great conversation. I'm really inspired by the work that you do and the programs you run at Liwan. So congratulations. I really look forward to the growth of our initiatives and your participation at the Design Biennale. That's a really big milestone for us. So I really look forward to that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for hosting me in your podcast.
Thank you. Shukran, Aisha.